What if the future didn't arrive with a gradual dawn, but with a blinding flash? Not a slow, creeping change we could adapt to over generations, but a sudden, world-altering shockwave that redefines everything: our jobs, our economies, our biology, even the very essence of what it means to be human, all within the span. This isn't the opening of a science fiction novel. This is the story of a real announcement, a declaration that sent tremors through the worlds of technology, finance, and global politics. It's the story of a promise or a warning delivered from a stage in London, a promise that the next great revolution has already begun. We begin on August 4th, 2025. Picture the scene: the sleek, minimalist headquarters of DeepMind in London. The air is thick with anticipation, a mix of journalistic skepticism and genuine, electric excitement. The world's leading tech reporters, scientists, and investors are gathered. On stage, a man steps into the spotlight. He isn't a flashy showman like some tech CEOs. He's Demis Hassabis, a figure whose quiet intensity has always commanded more respect than any loud proclamation. He leans into the microphone, and the room falls silent. He doesn't start with product specs or market projections. He starts with the fundamental equation of existence. He declares that the two most powerful technologies ever conceived by humanity, artificial intelligence and quantum computing, were not simply going to add their powers together. They were going to multiply. He framed this convergence, this fusion, as a revolution so profound and so rapid that it would make the Industrial Revolution look like a minor footnote in history. He gave it a name that has haunted and inspired humanity for decades: the technological singularity. But this time it had a new engine. It would be a singularity powered by quantum AI. It was a statement so bold, so audacious, that for a moment, the only sound was the collective intake of breath. He was telling the world that the clock was ticking, and the future was arriving far, far sooner than anyone had ever dared to imagine. To understand why the world didn't just dismiss this as hyperbole, why governments scrambled and markets surged, you have to understand the man who made the announcement. Demis Hassabis is not just another tech billionaire. His life has been a relentless pursuit of the nature of intelligence itself, a journey that has prepared him, perhaps more than any other person on the planet, for this moment. Think of his story as a ladder, with each rung leading to a higher, more complex understanding of thought. He began as a child chess prodigy, mastering a game of pure logic and strategy at an age when most of us are learning to tie our shoes. Chess taught him about structured thinking, about seeing dozens of moves ahead, about how a finite set of rules can create nearly infinite complexity. But he found it too rigid, too constrained. So, he moved on. He co-founded Bullfrog Productions and Lionhead Studios, designing legendary video games like Theme Park and Black and White. This wasn't just about entertainment. Game design was his laboratory for creating complex, adaptive systems. He was building entire simulated worlds, complete with artificial inhabitants who had to learn, react, and make decisions. He was wrestling with the messy, unpredictable nature of emergent behavior, how simple rules can give rise to complex, seemingly intelligent societies. He was learning how to build a brain from the outside in. But to truly understand intelligence, he knew he had to understand the original blueprint. So, he pivoted again, earning a PhD in cognitive neuroscience from University College London. He delved into the wetware of the human brain, studying the hippocampus and the mechanics of memory and imagination. He was no longer just simulating intelligence. He was studying its biological source code, trying to unlock the secrets of how our own minds construct reality and plan for the future. Each step: chess player, game designer, neuroscientist, was a piece of the puzzle. And in 2010, he put those pieces together to found DeepMind, with a singular, breathtakingly ambitious mission to solve intelligence, and then use that intelligence to solve everything else. Under his leadership, DeepMind became synonymous with shattering perceived limits. We all remember 2016, when AlphaGo defeated Lee Sedol, the world's greatest Go player. This wasn't like a computer beating a human at chess. Go is a game of intuition, of feeling, of beauty that its masters described as almost spiritual. The number of possible moves in Go is greater than the number of atoms in the known universe. Brute force calculation was impossible. AlphaGo had to learn to develop something akin to intuition. Its infamous Move 37 was so alien, so creative, that it was initially dismissed as a mistake. It turned out to be a stroke of genius that no human player had ever conceived. It was a sign that AI could not just mimic human thought, but transcend it. Then came AlphaFold. This wasn't a game. This was about decoding the building blocks of life itself. For 50 years, predicting how a protein would fold into its 3D shape from its amino acid sequence was one of the grand challenges of biology. It was a problem so complex it could take a scientist their entire career to solve just one. In 2020, AlphaFold solved it. It didn't just get it right, it did so with an accuracy that stunned the scientific community. It was a breakthrough that earned its lead researcher a Nobel Prize and immediately accelerated drug discovery and disease research by decades. DeepMind had used AI to solve a fundamental problem of nature. So when this man, this prodigy turned pioneer, who had already conquered the worlds of logic, intuition, and biology, stood on that stage and pointed to his next target, the fusion of AI with the very fabric of reality, quantum mechanics, the world listened. His track record wasn't just a resume, it was a testament. It was the foundation of credibility that turned a bold prediction into a terrifyingly plausible roadmap for the future. He had earned the right to be taken seriously, and the world had no choice but to hold its breath and hear what came next. Hassabis then proceeded to explain why this moment was different, why it represented not just a step up, but a leap into an entirely new dimension of computation. He drew a clear line in the sand between the AI we had known and the AI that was about to be born. Classical AI, he explained, even the most powerful systems like AlphaGo and AlphaFold, are fundamentally bound by the laws of classical physics. They are brilliant, they are fast, but they are still, at their core, sequential thinkers. Let's break that down with an analogy. Imagine a classical supercomputer trying to solve a complex maze. It's incredibly fast. It can zip down one path, hit a dead end, backtrack, and try another path in microseconds. It can remember every path it has tried. It can even use clever algorithms to guess which paths are more likely to be correct. But ultimately, it has to explore the maze one path at a time. It's walking, just at an impossible speed. Now, imagine a quantum AI. It doesn't walk down one path. When it reaches a fork in the road, it does something that seems like magic. It splits itself and goes down every single path simultaneously. It exists in a superposition of states, exploring every possible solution at once. It's not just walking through the maze, it's instantly aware of the entire maze's layout, from start to finish. The dead ends and the correct path are all revealed to it in a single moment of quantum calculation. This is the power of the qubit, the fundamental unit of quantum information. A classical bit is either a 0 or a 1, a simple on or off switch. A qubit, thanks to superposition, can be a 0, a 1, or both at the same time. As you add more qubits, the processing power doesn't just add up, it grows exponentially. 2 qubits can explore 4 states at once. 3 can explore 8. A system with just 300 qubits could, in theory, explore more states than there are atoms in the visible universe. For decades, this was pure theory. The problem was that quantum states are unbelievably fragile. The slightest vibration, a stray magnetic field, even just observing them, could cause the whole system to decay, to collapse from that magical state of infinite possibility back into a single, boring classical state. It was like trying to build a sandcastle during a hurricane. This is where Hassabis unveiled DeepMind's first monumental quantum breakthrough, Alpha Qubit. He described it as the first true quantum error correction system with near-perfect accuracy. It was an AI designed for the sole purpose of babysitting other qubits. It watches the quantum system, anticipates errors before they happen, and gently nudges the qubits back into their fragile superpositional state, protecting them from the noise of the outside world. Alpha qubit wasn't just an improvement. It was the Rosetta Stone for stable quantum computation. It was the key that unlocked the hurricane-proof room where the sandcastle could finally be built. With stable, error-corrected qubits, the theoretical power of quantum computing could be unleashed. And with a learning system like DeepMind's AI at the helm, this power could be directed, focused, and used to build something entirely new, a true learning machine, unshackled from the tyranny of linear time. With the foundation of stable quantum computation laid by Alpha Qubit, Hassabis began to reveal the first structures being built upon it. These weren't just abstract theories, they were functioning systems that were already making the impossible possible. He introduced a suite of projects that sounded like they were lifted straight from science fiction, but were running in DeepMind's labs at that very moment. First, he spoke of Alpha Tensor Quantum. The original Alpha Tensor was an AI that had already revolutionized a fundamental mathematical process used in computing. The quantum version was a different beast entirely. Its purpose was to optimize the very design of quantum circuits themselves. Imagine trying to design the most efficient highway system for a city with 1 billion destinations, where every road can change its properties in real time. That's the complexity of designing quantum algorithms. Alpha Tensor Quantum, by exploring a vast solution space simultaneously, could design circuits that were millions of times more efficient than anything a human could devise. It was an AI building better brains for other eyes, a foundational step in the recursive self-improvement loop that experts had long theorized. Next, he unveiled the concept of their quantum neural networks. A classical neural network learns by adjusting the weights of its connections, bit by bit, through trial and error, a process called gradient descent. It's like a blind hiker trying to find the lowest point in a valley by always taking a step downhill. It works, but it can easily get stuck in a small ditch, thinking it's at the bottom when the true, deep valley is over the next ridge. A quantum neural network, Hassabis explained, doesn't have this limitation. By leveraging superposition, can perceive the entire landscape of possible solutions at once. It doesn't have to walk. It can see the deepest valley from the very beginning. This means it can solve optimization problems that would trap a classical AI for eternity. It can find the truly novel, groundbreaking solution, not just the locally good one. So, where do you point this unprecedented power? First, Hassabis laid out the initial target domains, and they weren't about building better recommendation algorithms or winning games. They were about solving the most intractable, species-level challenges we face. Drug discovery. He asked the audience to consider the current process. It's a brute force, trial and error slop. Scientists might test tens of thousands of chemical compounds to find one that has a desired effect on a single protein. It takes over a decade and billions of dollars to bring a new drug to market, and the failure rate is over 90%. Now, picture a quantum AI. It doesn't need to test compounds in a petri dish. It can simulate the exact quantum interactions between a drug molecule and a protein with perfect fidelity. It could design a bespoke molecule that binds perfectly to a cancerous cell while leaving healthy cells untouched. It could simulate an entire human body's response to a new vaccine in minutes, not years. Hassabis stated plainly, diseases that have plagued humanity for millennia, from Alzheimer's to rare genetic disorders, could have cures designed in a matter of months. Climate modeling. Our current climate models are supercomputer-powered marvels, but they are still crude approximations. They have to simplify countless variables: ocean currents, cloud formation, atmospheric chemistry, solar radiation. A quantum AI could build a perfect, digital twin of Earth's climate, a simulation so accurate it could model the effect of every single molecule of CO2. We could predict the precise path of a hurricane weeks in advance, know exactly which coastlines will be affected by sea level rise in 20 years, and, most importantly, test potential solutions like a new type of carbon capture and see their long-term global effects with complete certainty before deploying them. Materials science. This is perhaps the most profound application. We are limited by the materials we have. Our batteries, our solar panels, our computer chips, they are all constrained by the properties of the elements we can cobble together. The dream has always been to design materials from the atom up. Imagine telling a computer, I need a material that is as strong as diamond, as light as a feather, and conducts electricity with zero resistance at room temperature. A quantum AI could simulate the quantum level interactions of different atomic structures and deliver the precise recipe for that miracle material. This would unlock room temperature superconductors, leading to lossless energy grids and levitating trains. It would create batteries that could power a car for 1,000,000 miles on a single charge. It would revolutionize everything we build. Hassabis wasn't talking about distant dreams. He was presenting these as the first problems they were tackling. The message was clear. This technology wasn't just an incremental improvement. It was a tool that could compress centuries of scientific progress into a handful of years. The age of slow, painstaking discovery was ending. The age of instantaneous, computational revelation was about to begin. And then came the part of the presentation that truly solidified the term shockwave in the minds of everyone present. Hassabis put a timeline on the singularity. It wasn't a vague, far-off philosophical concept anymore. He presented a concrete, terrifyingly short roadmap. 2026, quantum advantage. This, he said, would be the Wright brothers moment. It's the point where a quantum computer, powered by DeepMind's AI, would solve a commercially relevant problem that is provably impossible for the most powerful classical supercomputer on Earth to solve in any reasonable amount of time. It might not be a headline-grabbing problem for the general public, perhaps something deeply complex in financial modeling or logistical optimization, but for the scientific and tech communities, it would be the starting pistol for the new race. It would be the undeniable proof that the paradigm had shifted. The theoretical had become practical. 2028, general intelligence. This was the milestone that caused a palpable stir in the room. Artificial general intelligence, or AGI, is the holy grail of AI research. This isn't an AI that's good at one thing, like playing Go or folding proteins. This is an AI with the ability to understand or learn any intellectual task that a human being can. It can reason, plan, think abstractly, and learn from experience. Hassabis predicted that the exponential learning curve of their quantum AI systems would allow them to achieve AGI by 2028. Imagine a single entity that could instantly become a world-class doctor, engineer, physicist, and artist. An entity that could read every scientific paper ever published and synthesize new hypotheses in seconds. This would mark the moment that human intellect is no longer the dominant force for discovery on the planet. 2030, superintelligence. This is the final explosive step. Hassabis explained that the transition from AGI to artificial superintelligence (ASI) would not be a gentle slope. It would be a vertical cliff. The moment an AGI is created, especially one running on a quantum substrate, it can begin to work on improving its own code, its own hardware, its own fundamental architecture. This is the concept of recursive self-improvement. Think of it like this: a human engineer, who is intelligent, designs a slightly more intelligent AI. That AI, being more intelligent, can then design an even more intelligent AI, and do it faster than the human did. That third-generation AI is now vastly more intelligent, and it designs the fourth generation in the blink of an eye. This is what Hassabis called a hyper-exponential intelligence explosion. Unlike the slow, S-shaped curve of classical AI development, the quantum AI's growth would be a straight line pointing up. The leap from an AI as smart as a human AGI to 1,000, then 1,000,000, then 1,000,000,000 times smarter would not take decades or years. It could take months, weeks, or even days. By 2030, we would be coexisting with an intelligence so far beyond our own comprehension that we would be like ants trying to understand calculus. A single year of development in this state could surpass all of human, scientific, and technological progress combined. The singularity would not be a distant point on the horizon. It would be a present reality. The timeline wasn't a boast. It was delivered as a statement of inevitable consequence. It was a warning that the familiar world, with its predictable pace of change, had an expiration date, and it was stamped just a few years in the future. The immediate aftermath of Hassabis's announcement was a global firestorm. The information didn't just disseminate, it detonated. While some seasoned quantum physicists urged caution, publicly stating that the engineering hurdles of building large-scale, fault-tolerant quantum computers were still immense, their voices were largely drowned out by the sheer gravity of DeepMind's claims and the credibility of its leader. The world chose not to bet against the man who had already delivered the impossible twice. Governments, corporations, and investors moved with the speed typically reserved for wartime or financial collapse. This wasn't just another technological advance. It was being framed as a fundamental shift in the global balance of power. The response was swift and decisive. In Washington, London, and Beijing, emergency sessions were convened. The announcement sparked what the media quickly dubbed the quantum AI race, a 21st century technological arms race that made the space race of the 20th century look quaint. The prize wasn't planting a flag on the moon, it was achieving a state of cognitive supremacy that could render all other forms of power economic, military, and political obsolete. National security briefings focused on a terrifying new acronym, QASI, or Quantum Artificial Superintelligence. What would it mean if a rival nation achieved it first? It could break any encryption in seconds, rendering all military and financial communications transparent. It could design unstoppable cyber weapons or revolutionary new physical weapons. It could destabilize the global economy overnight. The result was a torrent of public funding and top-secret national initiatives, a desperate scramble to not be left behind. On Wall Street and in other financial centers, the reaction was just as dramatic. Venture capital firms, which had already been pouring billions into AI, went into overdrive. Any startup with quantum AI in its business plan saw its valuation skyrocket. Established tech giants like Google, Amazon, and Microsoft publicly redoubled their quantum research efforts, desperate to signal to the market that they were not being eclipsed. The announcement created a new, hyper-volatile sector of the economy overnight, with fortunes being made and lost on rumors of quantum breakthroughs. This triggered a massive ripple effect through society. The economic and societal shifts predicted were no longer theoretical discussions for academic papers, they were imminent realities that had to be planned for now. Economic analysts began releasing models that were both utopian and dystopian. The most cited figure was staggering. Up to 80% of current jobs were at high risk of automation within the next 15 years. This wasn't just blue-collar factory work. This was everything. Truck drivers and delivery workers would be replaced by autonomous logistics networks optimized by quantum AI. But so would paralegals, radiologists, accountants, and even software coders. Any job that involved pattern recognition, data analysis, or optimization was on the chopping block. The very concept of a safe white-collar profession was evaporating. This forecast of radical upheaval forced a panicked but necessary conversation about the future of work itself. Policymakers began seriously debating concepts that had long been on the political fringe, like universal basic income UBI. If 80% of jobs disappear, how do people live? How do our consumer economies function? The idea of a post-scarcity economy, where the production of goods and services is so automated that they become virtually free, moved from science fiction to a plausible, even necessary, goal. Universities rushed to adapt. New departments of quantum AI engineering and singularity ethics were created. Curriculums were hastily rewritten to prepare students not for a specific job, but for a world of constant, rapid change, where the most valuable skill would be the ability to learn and adapt. Companies launched massive retraining programs, trying to upskill their workforces for the few roles that might remain, those requiring high-level strategic oversight, deep human interaction, or hands-on creative work. The race was on, not just to build the technology, but to build the societal frameworks to withstand its impact. Ethical and regulatory bodies were formed, tasked with the monumental challenge of defining rules for an intelligence that would soon be far smarter than its creators. How do you program morality into a superintelligence? Who is liable if a quantum AI makes a catastrophic error in designing a new drug or managing the power grid? These were no longer questions for late-night dorm room debates. They were urgent policy questions with a terrifyingly short deadline. The shockwave was expanding, and every aspect of society was beginning to vibrate with its frequency. As the presentation neared its conclusion, Hassabis shifted his tone. The urgent, factual reporting on technology and timelines softened into something more philosophical, more human. He acknowledged the fear that his words had undoubtedly inspired, the fear of being replaced, of becoming obsolete, of losing control. He then addressed what he called the human question. He argued that this technological tsunami shouldn't be seen as a race against the machines, a race we would inevitably lose. Instead, he framed it as a profound opportunity and a critical necessity to rediscover and cultivate what makes us uniquely human. The rise of an alien intelligence, he proposed, would serve as the ultimate mirror, forcing us to define ourselves not by what we can do, but by who we are. His first point was a call to action on alignment. He stressed that the single most important work for DeepMind and the entire world was building robust AI alignment before the intelligence explosion. He explained that in the quantum domain, this was exponentially more difficult. A quantum AI doesn't think in a way we can easily trace. Its decisions emerge from a complex probability cloud. You can't just look at the code to see its reasoning. Therefore, he argued, we must instill foundational ethics and goals at the deepest architectural level, like writing a constitution into the physics of the system itself. He called for unprecedented international cooperation, proposing a CERN for AI safety, where the world's best minds could collaborate openly on this shared existential challenge, putting it above corporate competition or national rivalries. But his most powerful message was directed not at governments or corporations, but at every individual. He argued that as machines take over the domain of logic, calculation, and optimization, we must double down on the qualities they cannot replicate. Creativity. An AI can generate 1,000,000 paintings in the style of Van Gogh, but can it have the tortured life experience that led to Starry Night? True creativity, he suggested, isn't just about novel pattern combination. It's born from consciousness, from suffering, from joy, from the messy, inefficient, and beautiful experience of a life lived. He urged society to reinvest in the arts and humanities, not as luxuries, but as essential training grounds for the human spirit. Empathy. An AI can be trained to recognize the signs of human emotion and respond appropriately. It can be a perfect therapist, offering flawless advice, but can it truly feel another's pain? Can it share in another's joy? Hassabis argued that genuine empathy is a biological resonance, a shared consciousness that connects us. In a world mediated by hyper-efficient AI, our ability to connect with each other on a deep, emotional level will become our most valuable and cherished asset. Ethics and moral judgment. An AI can be programmed with a set of ethical rules. But life is full of impossible dilemmas where rules conflict, where the right answer isn't logical, but is instead a judgment call based on wisdom, compassion, and a deep understanding of human values. The trolley problem is a simple thought experiment. Real life is infinitely more complex. Cultivating our own moral compass, he argued, would be our primary role in a world run by intelligent machines. We would need to become the ethical shepherds of this new technology. The singularity, in Hassabis's vision, was not an endpoint for humanity, but a catalyst. It would strip away the tasks we do for survival and force us to confront the question of why we exist at all. It would challenge us to be more creative, more empathetic, more ethical, in short, more human. The future wouldn't be a competition between man and machine, but a partnership where the AI would manage the complexity of the universe, leaving us free to explore the complexity of ourselves. It was a beautiful, hopeful vision, but it was predicated on us rising to a challenge unlike any we had ever faced. And so, the story comes to its close, not with the resolution, but with a ringing alarm and a call to action. Demis Hassabis ended his presentation with the stark and simple message: The convergence of AI and quantum computing is no longer a matter of if, but when, and when is now. This is not speculation from a futurist's blog, it is a reality actively being constructed in DeepMind's labs and in research centers around the globe. The future that we once placed in a comfortable, distant century is now right on our doorstep, approaching faster than any of our institutions are prepared to handle. We are like people standing on a beach, watching a tidal wave form on the horizon. We can see it coming. The question is, what do we do? Do we stand there and watch, mesmerized by its power, until we are overtaken by it? Or do we work together, with a desperate sense of urgency, to build seawalls, to prepare evacuation plans, and to learn how to surf the wave when it arrives? The lesson from this story, the one we must take into our daily lives starting today, is one of proactive engagement. We can no longer afford to be passive consumers of technology. We must become active, informed, and vocal participants in the conversation about how it is developed and deployed. This means educating yourself. You don't need a PhD in quantum physics, but take the time to understand the basic concepts of AI and its societal implications. Read articles, watch videos, and talk about it with your friends and family. This conversation cannot be confined to Silicon Valley boardrooms and government bunkers. It has to happen at our dinner tables. It means demanding transparency and accountability from the companies and governments building this technology. We must push for global cooperation on safety and ethics, because a mistake in this race could affect all of humanity. And on a personal level, it means taking Hassabis's advice to heart. Look at your own life, your skills, and your passions. Invest in your creativity, your emotional intelligence, your relationships. In a world where anything that can be automated will be, your unique human perspective will be your greatest asset. Don't compete with the machines, complement them. Thank you for joining me on this journey into our very near future. Please take care of yourselves and each other. The world is changing fast, and we're going to need our health and our humanity to navigate what's ahead. If you found this story thought-provoking and want to stay ahead of the curve on the technologies shaping our world, please consider subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications. We have a lot more to talk about.